we go.
We're in.
I think so. What's going on, Star Wars fans?
Hello there.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We are
be back at it.
I know, right? We got some cool, exciting stuff coming up for Star Wars, which is about time.
Yeah, I mean, feel like it's been a while, even though it was just the summer. But we have stuff to talk about. I totally forgot off the cuff. We went to ICCC.
Yeah. Did we? Well, we did. I don't think we did anything after that. I did the John Morton thing and stuff, but besides that, that was really cool. That was a fun time.
I agree. I feel like it was well timed too, because we had the summer of being able to watch stuff and then kind of got to nerd out for a few days and had our own booth. So
yes,
yeah,
it was fun because again they had a what do you call it, a podcast area, but we weren't. We were just we were just doing our own thing. We had our own booth and people were stopping by and chatting with us, which was cool. Got to meet a bunch of people and got to see some really cool people from the movies and stuff. So if you're joining, we got our chat on here. Please hit us up if you have any questions. Say hello. Let us know where you're coming from.
Yep.
So we're
who you are and hello and any questions you have.
That's right. We have we're going to talk about Skeleton Crew and Andor today. A couple of those things coming up. So Jacob's on. What's up, Jacob? How are you, buddy? Hope you're having a good day. Thanks for joining us.
What's happening, Jacob?
Let's see what we got here. So what's your thoughts on Skeleton Crew? Have you seen the last trailer? Everything, obviously.
Yeah, I'm excited. I feel like it's kind of, I don't mean to be this guy, but I feel like it's kind of what we need is like a fun, what I assumed it looks fun. You never know till you watch it. But, just because there's kids in it doesn't mean it's not going to be serious in some way, But looks like there's a lot of action. It looks really cool. We were just talking about a clip that you particularly like that looks really cool. So in general, I feel like it'd be nice to have just like a fun news story for us to watch before, maybe the big one, which we'll get into later. But I'm excited because there's some aspects of it already in the trailers that I'm like, that's new, and I would like to see about it. But what about you?
Yeah, I think it'll be good. The beginning parts of it when they're going through it, it almost looks like Earth. I don't think it is, obviously, because there's some aliens in there and stuff, which is cool. There's a lot of talk about this planet possibly being more than it looks like, because some of the droids and stuff are actually being overwatching everything that's going on, which is interesting. But I think it'll be cool. It takes place, I think, around the same time as everything else at this point. That's coming out with not Andor, but I think Ahsoka, Boba Fett,
as they call it.
Yeah, the Mandoverse. So, but I think it's cool. I think or one of our main characters here. I think Wynn. He's obviously a very nosy little boy. It looks like in the trailers. Which I think is which is neat, and his buddy Neil, who they have said now is not a was it Ortolan, so he's not any relation to Max Rebo. So it's possibly a new character. Which will be cool. I think it'll be interesting to find out more about him. And then we have Fern. She's I think is going to be one of the other obviously one of the main characters in this, and it starts out, I guess, as there's two sets of best friends. So it's KB and Fern, the two young ladies, and then Neil and Wynn. So it's going to be neat. I think it'll be cool. They go out on an adventure, obviously, as we see, you know, as the trailers progress. If you haven't seen any of the trailers yet, you definitely got to check those out. So,
and you know, obviously, it looks like the way it looks is fantastic already. You know, just from trailers. Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
It looks visually awesome, and I feel like bringing some of those bounty hunters in all like practical costumes is pretty interesting and cool, especially the droids. Like I like that a lot. So
yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of pirates in this.
Oh yeah,
you know, that's the
almost,
yeah,
Goonies-esque.
Yeah, I hope it's not as, you know, and that's the thing. Hopefully it will be, but not as. Hopefully it'll stick to the Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe just because there's kids in it as the main characters, that's been the general thought in the pirates and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, we're gonna see Vane from Mando. He's gonna be there. Looks like Jessica and Lane popped on. Hey guys, good to see y'all too.
There they are. Hello, watching from Harmony, Minnesota on the treadmill.
All right, nice.
Hometown.
Yep, getting doing double duty there. I like it, multitasking.
Yeah, let's get Harmony, Minnesota some tourism.
Yeah. But I think once they step away, you know, here's something. I think obviously now we're in Star Wars. You know, now we're on a ship. Now we're going, you know, away somewhere. And it looks like I think they end up here at some sort of pirate cove or something like that. So I think it'll definitely be fun.
Little space Tortuga. I think we've probably talked about it before, but I did like in the first trailer how it just looked like a suburb. Like, you know, when it shows like where they're obviously from, it just looks like any suburb anywhere, like nice suburb. And I actually kind of like that because I feel like there's probably a lot more places like that than you'd tend to think in a Star Wars universe, right? Like we always see the middle of nowheres and the scrappy parts or like big cities and capitals and all this, but there's probably even more areas like wherever these kids come from. And I agree with you. I think there's probably more going on to it. It might be a little less nice, you know? But I like seeing stuff like that because it makes it feel more, I think it makes the universe a little bigger, even though it looks really familiar. I think it makes it look bigger than just ending up in Tatooine. Not that I love me some Tatooine, but you know, I like seeing these things that Andor did a lot of it, like a prison or, you know, some things that seem not that far of a stretch from where we are. Because they've got a world too, you know, and all this Empire stuff affects people in different ways. And so I think it'd be cool to see what it is they're getting away from, even if it's just being bored, you know.
Right.
But
and I think obviously they're kids. They're curious. You know, he finds the ship or whatever. But you know, and once they get to that planet, I think it's interesting. I was listening to Star Wars Explained, and I grabbed some of these pictures off of their podcast, which I really like that. And a guy who loves Star Wars are great cast. If you don't listen to them or watch them already, they're really cool. But there's some spot where.
I'm sorry.
Are you? No, you're good. Star Wars Explained. I grabbed a couple of those.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was just saying you chopped up when you were saying what podcasts they were. So could you repeat the names of the podcasts?
Yeah. The Star Wars Explained and a guy who loves Star Wars, I think it is. They're two great podcasts. They got a lot of information, and they do a lot more than information, and are on there a lot more, which is pretty cool. So I do like to watch them a lot. But I think it's really cool because they were saying that once they get to this pirate planet or wherever they're at, that nobody knows or nobody's ever heard of where they come from.
Right.
So I think that's interesting, you know. And then in the trailer, you know, they talk about there's Neil again. When they get there, I think when end up, you know, he's trying to buy something with these old credits, and they're all like, "Whoa, where did you get those?" And I think they find them on the ship that they acquire. I don't think they steal them.
Those look like Republic credits.
Yeah, so I think they're old Republic credits, which I think is neat because we're getting into some of that other stuff as well, and they're still tying in some of the old stuff with it, which is cool.
Yeah, not to get all. I know the point is not to get on here and do speculation or whatnot, but they're getting away for some reason. They're leaving for some reason, even if it's just adventure. But right. I mean, for them to be using Republic credits like it's normal at that timeline would suggest that there's some sort of like closed loop going on with where they're from. Nothing goes in or out. Sounds familiar. Sounds like
the First Order.
Yeah.
They could be watching and sort of controlling everybody that way, but I think that's what's cool. Like you said, speculation or your opinion of what's going to come on, I mean, it's not right or wrong, we'll find out on December 3rd, which will be fun.
It's crazy. It's so close. It's like 2 weeks away.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, like you said, we the last time, we had something, it feels like it's been 2 years for something new for Star Wars to come out. And then even like we'll talk about Andor a little bit, but they're saying unless there's some sort of animation or something coming out, we'll have Andor obviously April 22nd, and there's 12 episodes, but then that'll end in like July, and we don't have anything right now in the books until the movie comes out, possibly.
Yeah,
so we're hoping.
When is the now date for Mandalorian and Grogu movie?
I think May of 26th.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll have Andor next year, hopefully an animation, maybe 2. I don't know. Maybe they'll do a new series, or maybe they'll just do like the Tales of the Jedi or something like that, or Tales of the Empire like they did, just the little short ones, which, I mean, I'd be happy with anything that they're going to bring out, we've talked about before. We're very positive on this show, and we like everything that's come out. We've found good in it, no matter what, whether it's the Acolyte or Rise of Skywalker. There's still good things in there. They're not going to be our favorites, but Acolyte was a big one for me. I thought it was really good. I thought some of the story stuff was and you could sit here and pick it apart for sure, but I think some of the live action stuff and just seeing Plagueis and that was just such a cool thing for me, when we're doing that and watching all these things.
Yeah. And earlier when I said that Skeleton Crew is something that we need, I didn't mean that in like a derogatory way against the Acolyte, but more so that like the Acolyte, whether before you watched it or after you watched it, dealt with some pretty big stuff that people have opinions on. I don't know what the Skeleton Crew could do for you other than like, this is kind of its own thing. It seems like, unless it, obviously it'll happen and it'll make more sense once we watch it. But it seems like this is just going to be cool rather than dealing with these big things, even before the Acolyte started, even if you loved it, you're like, man, how is this going to shake out? Because we know all these things that, there's all these big topics that are going on with it. And Skeleton Crew seems like it's kind of its own fun, cool thing. Unless proven otherwise, maybe it ties in like crazy and we don't even know. But
I think it will probably towards the end, So we'll see. Tim Theo, what's up? How you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Tim. What's happening? Hey, we got a big chat going.
Yeah. We got
everyone gets to know each other. I don't know if you can see each other's messages, but
I'm looking at different streaming services so we can sort of see as things come down. I think right now just you and I can see the chat that pops up. But I'm hoping
we can see all of you. So if you want us to put a question on here, ask it and we'll put it on the screen.
Turn your cameras off because we can see all of you too. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Mom, I can see you on the treadmill.
That's right. So are you familiar or do you remember the war, the massacre at Gorman that was in
that
Rebels.
I
think it's from Rebels.
Is that Zeb's?
I don't know if it's his. I don't think it's his planet, but
let me look it up.
Yeah, so that's part of the Andor thing, which I learned today, which is pretty cool. And I didn't mean to jump into Andor right away, but I think that's a good turning point. Yeah.
Interesting.
So there should be couple more things with Skeleton Crew, and then we are going to get into Andor. So I thought this was cool. You said you found this as well. So these are some of the directors for these 8 episodes of Skeleton Crew. So
they worked on.
Pardon?
And the things that they worked on,
Yes. Underneath. Yeah, correct. Yep. But I think that Bryce has done a good job with some of the stuff that she's done. She's directed a handful of the Mandalorian and stuff too, which will be cool. So I think I think it'll be cool. I like that they do different directors, so we can get a little bit of somebody else's ideas.
Yeah, I like when they do that. I like when they do that in The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and stuff, and they did it with Obi-Wan a little bit. Bryce Dallas Howard also voiced Yaddle. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
In Tales of the Jedi, but yeah, I think the multiple directors is cool because you get kind of like the right person for the right piece of the flow of the season.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Acolyte did it. But I don't know if the Acolyte did it, and I don't know if there's another show that I'm not sure they did it. But I like how in The Mandalorian, when things need to go a certain way for the flow, like in the feeling, they have Bryce Dallas Howard do one, they have Jon Favreau do one, then they have they have it kind of lined up where if it's this person's episode, then this is what we're going to, this is the feel I'm expecting. I kind of like that. Maybe it's spoiling it a little bit too much, but
no, I think it's cool. I think that's a good analogy of it because, like you said, you're going to bring, if they're going to bring in, shoot, I can't think of that guy that does all the. I'm having a brain fart with who's the guy that does all the weird movies?
Taika Waititi.
Yeah. He's supposed to do. He was supposed to do a movie, and never did. So I mean, hopefully they'll still have him on there. I think that he would bring something cool to it, as well, So.
And speaking of that, to move into our next topic, I also like when they bring in directors or writers that aren't necessarily like big, huge Star Wars nerds. I like when it gives it kind of a different feel with the backing of Lucasfilm, making sure it all works out. Right. And that's what they did with Andor with Tony Gilroy. So they brought in a guy who's really good and isn't necessarily like a Star Wars nerd like us,
right?
Who is just writing like a really great story that maybe probably gets tweaks as far as like what works with the lore and stuff, but otherwise he knows what he's doing and goes in there. So I like getting the feel. As much as I love Dave Filoni, I like getting the feel from somewhere else that kind of gives it more of a cinematic feel rather than like, what can I stick into my lore brain this episode, but
right.
I feel like
Dave's.
Well, we got a little bit of connection issues.
All right.
There we go. You're back
again.
Yep.
So what I was saying, I think, Dave is always in the background, so he's still going to have his input on all these things, which I think is good.
Yeah.
One more thing I wanted to touch on. I think this guy's going to be a badass. I'm trying to think if I have his name down here somewhere. SN33. And from what I've gathered he is a an older robot, obviously, but like a pirate. I think the ship that they're on is a pirate ship.
Okay.
Used to be. And you know, when they get it, and because obviously somehow it goes right to that pirate substation or whatever that is. It looks like, you know, these are speculations, obviously, but you know, when Wynn hits that green button, it lights up, and you know, like we showed earlier, you know, it's just, you know, they're heading out somewhere.
Yep.
And you know, we end up getting, you know, going into some sort of pirate area, which I think is pretty cool. So I think it'll be fun to just watch all this, you know, transpire and come into fruition and have a good story behind it.
I got two things to piggyback off of there. One is that I'm going to rescind my comment about the Goonies. And I don't know if you've ever seen this show, but it kind of fits in my brain perfectly now that the trailer reminds me maybe it's more like a Stranger Things. You ever seen that show?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've watched all those episodes.
I feel like maybe it's more like that than it is Goonies, from what I can feel anyway.
I think I think it's going to be more that way than the Goonies, but I don't think it'll be as dark.
Yeah.
As Stranger Things, because again, you have, I mean, I don't think they're going to kill any of these kids off.
No.
You know, in Stranger Things, we lost a couple, you know, kids in that, you know, so it's a little bit darker, but yeah, I think it'll be more like that as well. I think we are going to have some scary spots. I mean, there's a picture of them all holding guns, you know, at some point. I forget where, if I put that even up here, but I guess not. But yeah, they're all holding guns. All the kids are. So obviously they're into some shit.
Yeah.
And they need to protect themselves. But I don't think any of them are going to die. And for some reason, if they do, it's not going to be some gruesome death that we're going to see them get stabbed by a lightsaber, you know, like Jackie.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've seen that happen though.
True. She still was just a Padawan. So
we've seen that happen in the prequels, kind of. But the second thing I was going to say is, how come they're able? I don't think in a million years I could come up with a good droid name. In every show they have, it just seems like a perfect droid name. Like K2SO is a random sequence of numbers and letters, and it just sounds so good. Yeah. Or SN33, like, yeah, that works for that guy. Like, how did they nail that every time? I don't know, but good for them.
They do. They do, you know, and I think they just keep it going. Obviously, they came up with R2D2 and C3PO, so they're continuing to stick with that type of thing. Here's another place that I think they end up on. It's almost like a Cantabite, I think. You know, it's got some hot springs and pretty fancy landing platform there. So it'll be interesting to see. I think we'll go to a couple different planets. You know, whether they're looking for treasure or not, you know, and even with Jude Law, I think his character is going to be different than we think.
I do too.
You know, they think he's a Jedi. I don't know if he is. Even if he is, I don't think he was trained as a Jedi. He might have force powers. But I also think that he could possibly be the antagonist in this, the bad guy in this.
I don't think it's, you know, they typically show in the trailers pretty much only footage from the first or second episode, like the first night that it's out. So with Jude Law being like Mr. Ooh, look at this good guy. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
A lot of show to play out.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. And one thing we haven't talked about yet, I really think that we might see Hondo, which I think would be freaking awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be great. And again, like low stakes there, kind of, you know, compared to the Acolyte when we were talking about, oh, are we going to see Yoda, or we saw Darth Plagueis, and you know, that was like a huge anticipatory thing. With this, like, that'd be really fun to see Hondo, or to see him, you know, someone like that. And I think that's kind of what we need, is something, you know, to get the groove back after not having stuff for a little bit, and make it be fun, that sort of thing. Yeah, I think it'll. That's what I think. I get the feeling like a similar feeling to what we had when The Force Awakens came out, where, you know, I recall no matter what anybody says, that most people left liking it, loving it or liking it. And if anything, they were like, man, that was a lot like A New Hope, but man, Star Wars is back. That was fun.
Yeah.
And then the following year we got hit with Rogue One. And so, and that's some people's favorite movie, all of them. And
that was a huge smash.
Yeah, rightfully so. And I feel like Skeleton Crew will get that. Oh, okay, we're in Star Wars now. Like Star Wars mode is here, and then we get hit with Andor, like we did with Rogue One. So I feel very similar as that time, except, you know, like The Force Awakens, I don't know anything about what's going to happen with Skeleton Crew, you know?
Right.
So,
yeah, I think that'll be fun to see what happens in this new series, you know, whether, you know, how they end it, you know, hopefully it'll get some good feedback. Maybe it'll come in with a second season. You know, I know you and I were both disappointed that Acolyte wasn't gonna get a second season. I know there's probably going to be some comics and some books to maybe, you know, build on some of these characters that they brought in. But I think a second season would have been fantastic for that. And they could have closed it out.
Yeah, I think it needs it. It kind of leaves you on leaves you for more story. My dad has a question in the chat. If you want to put that on the screen.
Let's see. There we go. Oh, look at that.
With a pirate group, do you think we will see new weapons that fit pirate mode? Thinking about how pirates use cannon, blunderbusses, flintlock pistols, different swords or shanks. Could be. I feel like there's probably going to be some ship-to-ship action that's less about like flying around in fighters. You know, considering
more like pirate ships, you know, shooting at each other back and forth.
Yeah, considering, you know, those kids don't know how to fly like that. Maybe, you know, I would presume. So maybe they're a part of like a bigger.
Yeah, well, and I think once Jude Law gets on there, I think it could be, you know, a little bit detrimental as well. So, what's up, Brett? Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, Brett.
To your dad's question, I think you're right. I don't think we'll see swords or anything like that. Again, we're in the Star Wars universe. We have lightsabers, so I don't think we're going to see anything in that effect. But I think we'll see some. I think we'll definitely see some bad pirate stuff for sure.
Yeah.
How likely is Hondo going to be still around? I think Hondo will be around, Jacob. Yeah. I think it'd be an awesome cameo just to put him in there. You know, like you said, Nick, at the end, you know, just something where everything goes to shit and the kids win, and, you know, Vane goes and says, "Hey, boss, you know, this is what happened." He's talking to Hondo.
Yeah. Well, and Hondo's pretty morally gray anyway, like at all times. He helps good guys, helps bad guys, as long as he gets paid. But
exactly,
to meld both questions together, Hondo is like Star Wars pirate. He's like Jack Sparrow in Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's like totally down to the costume and the gun. Like he's very much like old-timey pirate in Star Wars. So I think if Hondo is in the show, then my dad's question's answered, that there would be a little bit different stuff in there because he's like aggressively a pirate. So I don't know, but
yeah, for sure. Tim, so in the movies, C-3PO and R2-D2, I think, are in all of the movies except for Solo, and are they in Rogue One?
Yeah, they're in the background.
Okay.
In Gavin.
And they've popped into some of these live actions that are coming out that we've talked about before. Ahsoka, C-3PO showed up, right? And for Leia. So so C-3PO and R2-D2 are two of the main characters, not main characters, but characters that have been in pretty much all of the movies.
They're in Obi-Wan too.
Yeah. You know, so they have been in a couple of the live actions. So,
Tim, were you talking actors or characters?
Oh yeah, actors. Well,
I don't know if any actors have been in all of them. Maybe Anthony Daniels.
Right. And that's C-3PO.
Yeah.
So let's move on to everybody's new favorite live action that's going to be popping up here soon. This Andor looks amazing. I'm really excited about this. We have the release date now of April 22nd. This obviously, as we all know, is Yavin 4. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but I think this is going to be a really cool series that's going on. They're doing the 12 episodes like we had talked about before. Most of these live actions are 8 episodes. Andor was a 12 episode, and they will be doing 12 episodes again. And the unique thing about this, which I think most of us know or have heard, and I heard this even at the end of Andor season 1, that they're going to do a 3-episode arc, and each one of them will be a year. So we'll go from, the first 3 episodes will be 4 years outside of Rogue One, and then the next 3 and the next 3, and they're going to end up going pretty much right into where he, goes on to see the guy with, I think he's got one arm, trying to get some information from him, and ends up killing him. But that's supposedly where they're going to end at. So I think this will be pretty cool. I think one thing I did see, did I put it up here? I thought I put it up here. So Empire, I think it's Empire or some magazine has the new cover that's coming out, and Krennic's on it.
Yeah, he's in it.
Yeah, so he's going to be in it, which I think is really cool.
I saw an article saying that him and I forget her name, but the sort of main ISB agent that we follow, that Cyril has a crush on. I saw them interviewing, I think it was the guy who plays Krennic, Ben Mendelsohn, and he was saying that they clash in this, that they don't get along.
You don't see her in many of the trailers, and she's not around in
Rogue One.
Right, in Rogue One. Neither is Bix, the young lady that's in it. So I think that'll be interesting in reference to that. Yes, Brett. C-3PO does have the first words in A New Hope and the last words in Return of the Jedi. Those are the ones. The last words? Yeah, he has the first words and the last words.
Nice.
Yeah, which is because they talk about I can't think of who the captain is, but the captain says to or it might even been Jimmy Smits. So it might even been in the third movie, but they talk about wiping C-3PO's memory, and he's like, "What?"
Right. Yeah. So interesting.
But, Tim, if you're still on here, sorry, I was throwing some of these things up. Actors, no, there's no actors besides Anthony Daniels who plays C-3PO. So, what did Jacob say? All 9 movies in the main story. Yes, correct. You are correct, Jacob. Yeah.
I kind of agree with that. I think R2 is kind of like the whole reason everyone's alive in there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he is. He knows everything from the beginning. And he never tells anybody. And that was one of those cool things I was watching the other day. Because a lot of people put stuff out. Why is this and why is this? And they were talking about how Obi-Wan doesn't remember R2-D2 or remember owning a droid. But again, he's not going to go in and let Luke know right away, oh, this is what happened and this is what happened. Oh yeah, and R2-D2 was here and I had R5, and so again, in A New Hope, he's not going to just, without talking to Luke first, when he ends up talking to him, and then before he can tell him the rest of the story, he dies. But
I've seen a couple of things. I've seen a couple of things on that, like just kind of the way that Alec Guinness is. If you watch it, it looks like he's like looking. If I'm looking at you and you're R2-D2, he goes like, he doesn't say I don't know who he is. He goes, I don't seem to ever remember owning a droid. and kind of like a quippy little thing. But also, I don't know if it's in the novelization of that movie or a different thing. But when they're on the Millennium Falcon finally, I think it's either the novelization of A New Hope or it's from the certain point of view thing. I don't remember, or it's from a comic. It's from somewhere.
Right.
But once they're finally on the Falcon and he's alone in a room with R2, he says something to him like, "Man, I'm glad. It's really nice to be flying with you again," or something like that.
That's cool.
And they're both basically like, "Yeah, shut the hell up,"
Right.
But so at least they've gone and done that, and I feel like it's a quick enough quip for him to say in the movie that's just like, "Oh yeah, I was your owner. Yeah. Good one."
Right. I know we're jumping all over. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Right. No, just like you wouldn't be here if Leia wasn't needing me. So let's get to it.
Like last time.
Yeah. So
I know we're jumping all over, but like you said, this is one of the articles that they were talking about. Where that she's they don't really get along too well, and again we don't see her in Rogue One.
Well, that's kind of their whole thing. All these types.
Do we see her demise? Do we see her die in this? And how does she die? Does Krennic do something? I think we'll see Galen Erso.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll have maybe a cameo. Maybe he'll have a little bit more than that. I think that'll be interesting to see.
Do you think we'll get the pilot who defects?
I don't know. Yeah.
That's what kind of jump starts the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is, Galen
Bodhi.
Bodhi. It gets Bodhi to defect, and
Yeah, that could be a cool little scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes sort of towards the end. We'll probably see maybe a couple different spots. Him sort of maybe in the beginning working with Krennic or whatever, or just doing his thing for Stardust. But then towards the end, we see him, talking to Bodhi or something. That could be a cool little twist as well, which I think would be cool.
With Krennic and all those types, it's this weird like political competition all the time. And you even see it in Rogue One when Tarkin's like, "Nice Death Star, it's mine now."
Yeah,
and they're always doing stuff like that. They were doing it whole season 1 of Andor, and so it's not. It seems like it's kind of destined to be like this if Krennic's around, because everyone's trying to hop over each other.
Well, and he is in charge of it. I mean, he's obviously the main villain in Rogue One, but he's going to be just as big, in this, I think.
Yeah, I think he might be bigger considering, in Rogue One, we see him be the big bad for about 10 minutes until he gets owned by Tarkin, and then he's scrambling the whole time. And maybe now he's like a little more of a serious, not that he wasn't serious, but a little more of like clearly going to win this show amongst his people, But I don't know. Who knows if he'll even be around for the whole season for the 12 episodes. It kind of depends where he comes into play.
Well, I think he will be because, again, we're going to see him in Rogue One, and he has a big part in Rogue One, so I think we'll see him. I bet we'll see him in the last episode. There'll be something, that sort of ties him into that, which I think will be interesting.
That's what I mean. Like, he won't be across all 12 probably.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it'll be like Galen. I think we'll see him a little bit here, a little bit there. Same with what's the other main guy that's in Andor that flies that badass ship
for
the rebels?
Oh, Luthen,
that's it. Yeah. We don't see Luthen either. So again, Luthen's demise is probably going to be in these 12 episodes as well. And does he? My feeling on that is that he's going to sacrifice himself for Cassian,
or he gets, picked up.
Yeah,
he's on it. He's kind of under everybody's nose right now. I could see that getting compromised, or whatever.
Yeah, which will be interesting to see. So,
and obviously, we see Saw Gerrera's demise in Rogue One, and maybe all
he's in it,
kind of falling apart. Yeah,
definitely be in this as well, which will be cool. I think Forrest does a great job playing him in this whole Star Wars, whatever you want to call it. That he does a great job. He's just such a good actor, and he's such a weird Saul's such a weird dude.
Yeah.
So I think he really brings that to fruition when he's playing him.
Yeah. He's a good character too.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's still on the rebel side, but he's doing his own thing. He really doesn't care about the rebels.
And he's really kind of the reason that the Rebel Alliance has to be so scrappy and get caught all the time, because he's doing all these like attacks that they don't agree with, because he's like, screw these guys. And I like that that's kind of their problem. They say in Rogue One, like, he's a problem. He's not in the Alliance, but he's kind of a problem. And you can see that happening with Luthen. Luthen has to talk him down all the time and make deals with him. If Luthen's gone, then nobody's
right. He just has free reign.
Yeah. So
for sure. So, is there anybody that's still on here that has any questions or opinions on what you guys think that's going to happen in Andor or Skeleton Crew? Just let us know. I'd be interested to see what everybody thinks about these two. I think they're both gonna be fantastic. I think we just need this Star Wars stuff to keep coming out. I think people to keep their negative shit to themselves, and if you don't like it, don't watch it. It's
pretty easy, actually.
Star Wars, right? We're not going to agree with everything. I mean, I'm sure there's something in every live action or every movie that I've seen that I was like, it's okay. I wouldn't have done it that way, but again, it's out there. It's canon, so to speak. So it's like you're not going to do too much to change it, And I think if you go around trying to change it or bitch about what you didn't like, that's not helping anything. It's not helping the Star Wars fandom,
Yeah, I don't think that stuff will last forever. It's certainly pretty strong now. The same way that people have come around to the prequels a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that'll happen with a lot of this stuff. But like you said, it's pretty easy. You don't have to watch it. But if you're going to give it a shot, at least actually give it a shot. Watching it to hate it is a whole different issue,
Right.
So.
and you can't argue with the cinematography. I don't care who you are. I mean, find something, I'm sure you could find something, but the cinematography in Acolyte was fantastic. Now that they have this volume thing that they're using all the time, it's crazy, and it just adds so much to it, and obviously it helps, with the background and things like that. But I think they've just done such a great job being able to bring the cinematography to TV even, and I'm sure they'll probably use it in the movies. I don't know. I guess, I would guess they can use it in the movies as well. But just for these live actions, it's been fantastic.
That reminds me, I've said it before, I'll say it again, that the Andor 12 episode thing, I think that should just be the standard. I think 12 is a good number. I think shows like The Acolyte kind of suffer from the 8 episode thing, because you kind of have to.
Go ahead. Sorry.
They were planning on more, right? And and I feel like if you're not in TV, especially if you're not guaranteed, anything, 8's really hard, in my opinion, because it makes the pacing weird. Obi-Wan might have been a different story because it's a very specific person at a very specific time that everybody knows about. And I think that worked pretty well. And I can't remember if that was 6 or 8, but I just feel like the 8 is really hard to like pace out, and 12 kind of allows for a little more to happen, or do like 6 or 8 long ones. I think it's hard to do, especially when you're doing like half-hour episodes. It's hard to do 8. So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I think you're right. I think if they were longer, I mean, some of the Acolyte episodes were so short, I was just like, what? I mean, why? My thing is, why would you even put on that little bit of effort into all of that, for 28 minutes or 35 minutes? Let's go a little bit. Let's go a little bit longer. What does Jacob have to say here?
Very limited world building, storytelling. That's my thing. That I agree completely. That like if you're going to do 8, they better. I would prefer them to be long, especially because I feel like with 8, maybe Jacob will agree with me on this, but it always seems like with 8, there's a ton of stuff riding on the last episode.
Right.
And it just feels like it's unfair to everybody trying to do their thing to put that much pressure on a last episode or something like that. Like the Acolyte, I think, did that the most. Ahsoka kind of did it too, where there's so much stuff to tie up. That's hard on the director. It's hard on the actors. In the Acolyte's case, the lead actress had 2 characters to play in that last episode to deliver 2 characters sort of resolutions. It's hard to do if you can't, especially you and I had talked after the 7th episode of the Acolyte, and it was like, man, we just spent 45 minutes in a flashback and we still haven't resolved what's happening in the show. And I think if you had 12, you could easily do all that and kind of give a little more life to what's going on. I just think I agree that I think they want that big viewership for the last episode, but man, is it hard to, especially when they're always like 30 to 40 minutes. Again, if you're going to do 8 episodes, an hour is good. An hour can give you quite a bit.
Yeah. But and like you said, Jacob, the final episode to try to tie everything together and give you a proper climax. And sometimes they don't do that. I don't think, or they try to push it all in together, where when you have the animated series and you only have 28 or 29 minutes, but again, you have 21 episodes, but then even in, Bad Batch, you got a 50-minute episode at the end, which ties everything in together and, wrapped everything up in a nice tight bow, which I thought was fantastic. But I also think with Andor, they're doing a good job. We've already established all the characters. We already know who's doing what. So now we can get into the meat of things. Now we can just move forward and start kicking ass and taking names and, moving on with the rebellion and building it up. So I think it'll be interesting. I think Jimmy Smith should be hopefully in it as well. I think he has a big part to do with this as well. So hopefully we'll see him, in this. But again, until either one of these come out, we don't know what's going to happen, because I think that's the cool thing about Star Wars as well. Even though some of this stuff leaks out and, we talk about it and some people have some people guess properly, some people guess lucky, and then other people, we might not have come to fruition what we thought. But again, I think there's some fun twists and turns, that we won't know until that movie comes out or that TV series comes out, with like the Jude Law character. There's obviously a lot behind him, I think. And he's not just, oh, here's another Jedi. That's not just, he's not another Jedi trying to help these 4 kids get to where they're going or try to get back home. There's something else going on with him for sure.
Yeah, I don't expect them to pull any punches on that kind of twisty stuff either. And like Andor, I'm still going to ride the 12 episode thing again, but like with Andor, you got room to build things up and twist them, or you got room to have a 28-minute episode in there that kind of fills a gap, when you have 12 of them that are all generally 40 minutes, and so I think that's even better for them, that everything's established and we're paying attention to how things are going to work instead of like learning things, and when in the last season, when they spent a handful of episodes on, what was the name of the planet where they did the robbery? I don't remember.
I can't think of it right now, but yeah, I know what you're talking
spent
about.
a lot of time there, and we got pretty much everything you needed from what's going on, and spent a lot of time in the prison, got pretty much everything, you know, and so I think being able to do that is key. And Skeleton Crew, like I said before, is maybe what we need. We don't need like maybe a ton of like exposition or learning about who they are, what's going on. We might get it as the action comes. You know, that might be what we need with an 8-episode show. It kind of stands on its own. You know, what do you have to learn about a bunch of pirates? It's fun. You know,
But, yeah. Well, we're going to have to get some sort of little backstory from the kids, obviously, and you know, so they're going to build this up. You know, but hopefully it'll move along a little bit faster, and then we can continue to get into what we need to get into to find out what's going on, like you said, with the pirates, with Jude Law, you know, and his character, and everything else with the ship, you know, where it came from, you know, things like that. So, and obviously there's somebody in there, because one of the things they show somebody using the Force, and I don't, like I said, I don't know if it's Jude Law or somebody else, or if it's going to be one of these kids that you know, maybe the Jedi Council overlooked at some point, or you know, and same with the Empire, you know, because again, they go out looking for Force sensitive, you know, kids, obviously in Bad Batch. You know, we see that. Huh?
Could be magnets.
Yeah.
Like in Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I think it'll be fun. I think they're both going to be good series to keep us entertained, to keep the Star Wars story alive and in good standing.
Yeah.
You know, this
I agree with Jacob's comment that he just made, by the way. If you want to put that up there.
Say that again.
Jacob just sent a comment that's good. Okay. Could be another Chirrut, who is the blind guy from Rogue One, for anyone who's wondering, but refuses the Force-sensitive Jedi Sith life. I agree. I doubt he's trained. I doubt Jude Law is trained in any like formal sense. Maybe he's just winging it out there with those abilities. But you know, could be interesting too if this takes place in the Mandoverse. Then you know, Luke's out there looking for people. So
yeah,
you know, that could be something that at least people know about. Again, because in that time, in some of the books, they're talking about how like these sort of like urban legends get out about like who like Luke Skywalker is and what happened and stuff. Because obviously no one knows except Luke what happened up there in Return of the Jedi. And this like sort of heroic story comes out and is giving everyone hope for stuff. And so maybe the Jedi are less of a myth to people, or less of a weird thing to people now, you know? So, and it makes not only Jude Law's life valuable if he has something more valuable, but now the kids are riding around with what appear to be riches, you know, and don't even know it. So,
well, and there's one spot when in the trailer when Win is, I don't know if he's playing a game or what it is, but it shows this little figure with a lightsaber. And again, like you said, depending on how far out they are and where their life is, you know, do they know, or are the Jedi a myth?
Right.
You know, maybe they've never seen one and they have no idea what's going on.
Well, if it's a closed loop place, they might not know that anything ever happened to the Jedi. If he's paying with Republic money, you know, maybe they don't even, their parents don't even know anything happened.
Right.
You know, so.
So, and I think it'll be interesting. Like you said, they could be a myth. They could be like, oh yeah, that was a long time ago, or they were in this galaxy or this planet or whatever, you know, and they're not sure, you know, what's going on. So it'll definitely be fun to see it unfold.
Yeah, but you're right. The kids know about them, so that's a given.
Yeah, but, you know, so it should be fun to watch that, you know, come to fruition again and see what happens and what these kids think about the Jedi, you know, and if he really is a Jedi.
Yeah. We'll find out.
Yep. December 3rd. December 3rd. Well,
coming up.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a I'll have to see what time it comes out. Maybe we'll do a watch party if it's 3 a.m. I don't know how many people would come on with us, but we'll probably be up watching it. But same with Andor. I think that would be that probably should do that, whether it's 3 a.m. or 8 o'clock at night or whatever. I think Andor would be a great one to live stream with a watch party. So that should be fun. And that's in April.
We'll make sure to turn the sound off on the recording so we don't get deplatformed again.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you got anything else Star Wars related that you've been reading about, or anything else to add to these two that we've talked about today?
It's pretty much it. There's some stuff floating around about future movies, but it's all kind of rumors and comments that I don't think really amount to anything, but everyone's talking about them, with like
the new trilogy that's coming with I can't think of the director's name, or but he did a couple things with Rebels, and he's done some MCU stuff.
He did a little bit of Rebels, and then he did X-Men.
Okay.
Some kind of X-Men thing, I think.
Yeah, I think with Dark Phoenix was one of them.
Yeah.
Somebody was like, "Oh yeah, he did Dark Phoenix." I was like, I thought Dark Phoenix was pretty good.
I'll be honest, I don't know if I saw it. But, but I think everything past just announcing that something's being made is just people talking. So I think before we talk about that, maybe give it a little time, see what actually happens. Because they all announce it that something's being made, not what it is, or
but if you opened up
Twitter, if you opened up Twitter right now, you'd have 15 different stories about confirmed this is what's being done, and it's not. So,
that's the thing I don't understand about some of the, you get on YouTube and it's like, oh, season 2 of Boba Fett, and I'm like, why would you even spend that much time to put that out there when it's not going to be confirmed by Disney? Yeah, I guess that's just my thinking of stuff like that, where I'm like, why? Well, I'm not going to go in there and make a R2D2 movie, out of AI or whatever, and be like, oh, season 1 of R2D2, a Star Wars story, because I'm like, oh, look at this. Oh, yeah, no, but
that might be the reason why, though, because you and I click on that stuff and go, wait, really? And then they get traffic. But I'm enjoying more characters questioning the Jedi way. We seem to be getting a lot more, right? Like a lot more gray area. But I feel like that's kind of part of the whole saga anyway, like I think it's good to have a little bit of struggle with some of them. Like Baylan Skoll would be a lot less interesting if he was just hard one way or hard the other way. He's very questionable character that is obviously bad, but maybe not. You never know.
Yeah.
But, so I like
that was one of the things I thought was really cool about the Acolyte, because again, they bring that into fruition. Like Brett said, people are questioning the Jedi way, because again, you have somebody like Saul that was like, he's too emotional to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
And that's I think was his demise.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was kind of like the missed point of the Acolyte, is like, that's a pretty big topic that was really interesting that got glanced over because a lot of people said they hated it, a big, interesting one. And also there's a whole thing, Brett, in the Thrawn books. I don't know if anyone's willing to read the Thrawn books, but there's a part of Thrawn talking about how some of the kids in their culture were sensitive to something, and they just happened to call them Skywalkers because they used what is force sensitivity to basically think and seek out hyperspace lanes and where to fly. So they just call them Skywalker. They'd help them map the galaxy. And so to Brett's point, there's all kinds of other people out there who might be totally disconnected to what we watch, and have their own names or ways about the Force or about whatever's going on. There's another book about like all these adventures of Luke Skywalker after Return of the Jedi. And one of them is he's in the middle of like nowhere and he comes across these people who all like know how to use the Force, but they call it the mist or something. They call it like the wind or the mist or something. And they just have all their own weird rules about it. And he's like, oh, okay. So it's not just like the Jedi don't have like a patent on the Force. They just figured out what's generally the best way to go about it. But like there's all kinds of people who out there who know how to use it. It's not like just us. So I think that'd be interesting to get into even more. Like the witches, I thought that was a good addition to the Acolyte. They use it clearly in a different way, maybe a more magical way, but you know, if it's right or it's wrong, that's kind of up to what they do with it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, hey, everybody that's still sticking around, appreciate you guys listening to us talk about Skeleton Crew and Andor for a little over an hour here. We're gonna try to get on later this week with another live, do some Star Wars Christmas stuff. We'll post that later this week if that does come up and we do that. But we should have another podcast coming up here probably in the next couple weeks, sometime in December. We're going to get another one out before the year's end here, and we'll announce who that special guest will be on here. If you haven't already, go check out that John Morton interview. It's a really cool interview. I had a great time with him. We saw him obviously at the ICCC as well, but just talking about the old school stuff and George Lucas, Mark Hamill back in the day. What a really cool story. We got from him. So it's neat. Go back and check some of that other stuff out. If you haven't, go back and check out some of the other podcasts. They're really cool information. It's really cool to listen and talk to these people and see what their Star Wars history was too. So that's what this is about. It's just bringing new information to you, or more information in reference to Star Wars, but also trying to bring some of this these fun actors and actresses and their stories to you guys as well. So
yep. And feel like you're just talking about Star Wars with your buddies,
right?
That's the main thing. But
do you think Austin got on here?
I can't see the list. I just see who comments.
Yeah.
So
I figured he'd at least throw something up if he was on here. He better. Austin, if you're on here, you better throw something up.
Yeah, throw something up, man. He also might be working. It's only 5. Feels it's dark there. A little later, but yeah,
I know.
It's only
with the time change. So
all
right. Well, again, thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you on the next Star Wars Jedi Chat. Thank you for tuning in, and keep streaming. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you know when we have something else coming up. And until then, may the Force be with you, and we'll see you on the next Star Wars Jedi Chat.
Thanks, everybody.